Oof, that was an intro. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Wednesday show. 2 fun-filled hours of the Paranormal Portal just waiting for you, so I hope you guys are ready to be wildly entertained. And I'll turn that down. I'm broadcasting through the studio monitors as well as the headphones, so it's a little loud. But hope you guys are doing great. Thank you so much for joining us here in the Paranormal Portal. As always, it's a phenomenal pleasure to be here with you. And it's even more of a pleasure to see all you guys coming in the door. So thank you so much. We've got a epic journey into the darkness of the paranormal for you prepared tonight. And I hope you guys enjoy yourself. I didn't connect the phones at all. Do you know that, Don?
You didn't connect the phones last week either.
What are you saying, Don?
I think he's slipping.
And ladies and gentlemen, of course, welcome my good friend and co-host, Mr. Don Longbeard.
Sitting right next to Mr. Slippin' Brent over there.
Is your phone on? Or your phone? Your
Microphone?
Yeah. Okay.
Hello?
Gotcha.
Hello?
All right. Just wasn't sure you were carrying through.
I carry through everything.
You do? Okay. Gotcha. Well, good enough. Let me connect the phone lines just because I'd forgotten to do that.
Yeah, we haven't had any phone calls lately. What's up with that?
No, I've had a few. They just kind of are sporadic, but you guys are always welcome to call in, especially after the news. It's a little hard to see the phones while I'm reading the news stuff, or any article for that matter, but I do my best. And sometimes we do get phone calls, Don. People want to share with us.
Yes, I'd love to hear when people share with us.
Me too. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, is there any news? Well, first of all, I just want to say don't forget to all you guys to head over to Amazon Prime and check out the documentary.
The eyebrows.
That I was on there. The IBRO, Irish Bigfoot Research Organization, has a documentary out there, part 3. It's called The European Bigfoot, Walking with the Wild Man 3, and it's what I narrated. I narrated the whole thing. So, if you want to help support a brother, you know what I'm saying? Head over to Amazon Prime or Amazon and check it out. Again, it's European Bigfoot. And I was going to pull up a link, but...
as opposed to American.
European. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing that, and I hope you guys wouldn't. If you looking for a good documentary to check out, by all means, please do. Again, European Bigfoot on Amazon Prime. Check it out. What else? God, there was one other thing. I guess I could do this quick. There's another thing going on. This will be in June. Excuse me, of this year, Don.
Oh, yeah. We were just talking about that, weren't we?
That thing we were just talking about. And I guess we should talk about it more because we're in 2023 now, man.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It is. It's coming up fast. But, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be at this amazing event. Why the hell is it like this? God, I'm so disorganized. Oh, my God.
Dude, I look at your computer and I get confused.
Well, so do I, as it turns out.
What the hell?
As it turns out, so do I. This is the one. There we go. I'm going to put it over here, and you can check it out. This is, of course, the Spokane Valley Sasquatch Roundup is coming to Spokane Valley, Washington State. And that's just a hop, skip, and a jump away for Don and I, and we're going to be there. I'm going to be emceeing the event, so I'll be talking a lot, I guess.
MC Blunt!
Can't touch this.
Wouldn't need to.
Don't want to touch this. But this will be a great event. Dr. Jeff Meldrum will be there, Cliff Barrickman, Ken Gerard, Michael Freeman, Michael Thompson, and Charles Johnson. Charles and I have investigated some paranormal stuff together. He's a wonderful guy. And so we'll be there, and this is June 17th, 2023. If you want more information, go to exnorthwest.com and check out ticket information and such. But that'll be coming up in June 17th. So you would be remiss if you weren't there enjoying it. If you can be there, it'd be great to meet you. Of course, like I said, we'll be there. So hopefully you'll be there, or as many of you as possible. So if any of you are in the neighborhood or can be in the neighborhoods, check it out.
Absolutely.
Excuse me. A little bit froggy, Don.
What was the hold on, let me
What was the...
Oh, it's Walking with the Wild Man, European
Bigfoot. Yep. European Bigfoot Walking with the Wild Man 3. And that is the Amazon Prime documentary that I narrated. It was a lot of fun. Love those guys, and they did a beautiful job. Beautiful cinematography and stuff, so check it out. That's available. So that's enough of the laundry list up front. How about some news, Don?
Done news.
It's time, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to head into the Paranormal Portal news desk and find out just what's cooking. All right.
Brown cow.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal News Desk as we dive into another fun-filled adventure of the Paranormal Portal News. And I've pulled up several articles for your viewing pleasure, and I hope you have some viewing pleasure.
Wow.
If not, blame Don. Just blame Don. No.
Hi, my name is Brent.
No, it's fine. I think these are some decent articles. Some of these are things I'd never heard of before today. When I was pulling them up, I'm like, ooh, that sounds interesting. Ooh, that sounds interesting too. So we'll see if I was right.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This first article is from unexplained-mysteries.com. Please support the site. Please check them out. They are an amazing site with some great news briefs and information about several topics, not just the paranormal weird stuff, but lots of incredible
And it
news.
may be just crap you didn't know you needed to know.
Yeah, you might not need to know it, but you're going to know it after you leave here. So the first one up is the Black... Oh, geez. There we go. The Black Death may not have been spread by rats, study claims. What am I doing? Oh, too much gap. Let's see, where's the proper position, Don?
Well, the problem is you can't read it.
That's true. That doesn't help much. Don's helping me. Oh, Jesus. Helping me with my positioning.
Stay in your chair. It's okay.
What?
There, that was... Oh, no, that was kind of... I don't know. I don't know
I'm
what's
moving
happening
it.
with the
Let's
screen
see.
lately.
Okay, there we go. That looks pretty good. I'm watching Don's screen as the feed catches up with me. The Black Death may not have been spread by rats. My God.
Are you okay over there?
I don't know. I'm
little
just
froggy over there. What's wrong with my camera?
I'm not sure. Let me see what's wrong with your camera. Wow.
I went all sideways and stuff.
Yeah, you're all wonky, Don. It like just happened too.
Wonky Don.
Yeah. The Black Death may not have been spread by rats, study claims. How big is the study? Oh, that's pretty big too. Let's just read the first part of this because I'm interested.
Wow.
It says the Black Death ravaged Europe between 1347 and 1353.
Oops.
Ooh, that was not a good plan. Whatever you just did, don't do it again. Because I can't do anything for you if your camera drops, because we'd have to actually relaunch the stream.
It dropped it.
Oof. Huh?
Oh.
What?
I don't know what's on it.
What's
I don't
on it?
even know where to plug it back in at. It came out of the... whatever that... Well, Don's not on camera tonight.
Don's going to be off camera tonight, ladies and gentlemen, so it'll be just my beautiful smiling face and the dulcet tones of Don's soothing voice.
Whatever.
One of the most common related facts about the plague is that it was spread by rats in some parts of the world. The bacterium that causes the plague, Yersinia pestis, maintains a long-term presence in wild rodents and their fleas and is called an animal reservoir. While plague begins in rodents, it sometimes spills over into humans. Europe may have once hosted animal reservoirs that sparked a plague pandemics, but the plague has also been repeatedly reintroduced from Asia, which these scenarios was present remains a topic of scientific controversy. Anyway, I don't know. I'm like lost interest in this. Rapid spreading. I don't know. It's just really. It's really, really long, and I didn't do my homework there because I pulled up a really long article. So that's a fail on my part, as it turns out. But let's get to the next article because I'm interested in what they have to say, but not interested enough to read it here on the live show. Let's see what the next one is. This is an article from unexplainedmysteries.com, Don. And you just never know where Jesus is going to turn up, ladies and gentlemen.
Apparently not.
It could be in toast, could be in your window, could be in your dreams, could be a vision, could be and I'm not disparaging Jesus or your faith, but
Jesus, he's just everywhere.
woman from Cornwall finds face of Jesus in her pizza box. Yep, he showed up in a pizza box. The mother of two maintained that the leftover grease stain on the box looks a lot like a sign of divine intervention.
A grease stain?
A grease stain.
Oh, my goodness.
They say God works in mysterious ways, which might at least explain the idea that a visual representation of Jesus Christ would ever be likely to appear in a manner quite like this. 33-year-old Kim Ellis, who hails from Cornwall, England, had been devouring a Domino's meat feast. They even specified the pizza with her partner when she noticed that the grease stain on the box looked awfully familiar. And I just looked up and noticed a little face looking back at me and thought it was funny, she said.
Yeah, I would too.
What the hell is that picture? My first thought was Jesus because of the flowing hair and beard. Could have been Don.
No.
Oh, no, that couldn't have been you. It's not a long beard.
Yeah.
Before long, she'd taken a photograph of the box and posted it up online, where it quickly attracted a great deal of attention. Not everyone was convinced the stain looked like Jesus. However, with some arguing that it more closely resembled serial killer Charles Manson
Oh, my goodness.
or singer John Lennon. Whatever the case, the image is a prime example of pareidolia, the mind's uncanny ability to perceive meaningful shapes in abstract patterns. In other words, it really is just a grease stain in a pizza box.
So I got a question for you.
Yeah?
It's 33-year-old gal, right?
Sure.
Sees the face of Jesus in a grease stain in a Domino's box.
Yeah.
That looks more like, something, drawn by Matt Groening.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah, Jesus, sure. But wasn't Jesus like 33 when he was crucified?
He was, yeah.
Yeah, so therefore
that was
it's
his
a
life.
Little coincidence there.
That is a little bit of a coincidence. You're right.
So,
Huh. Well, there you have it, folks. I just never know. But the Lord is with you always. Maybe even in your pizza box.
oh my goodness.
I'm really not disparaging religion with this, I promise. I think faith is beautiful.
Oh,
but
Maggie. She's Anno Domino's.
what?
Anno AD.
Oh, Anno Dominus.
Anno Domino's.
Anno Dominus. Yeah. Gotcha. That was a good play of words. Well played, Maggie.
Yeah, that was good.
I got to thank Maggie, too, because it was her post in the Discord that reminded me. I needed to post a question for this week. I was like, don't. for tonight.
Wonder Woman says it looks more like John Lennon.
Imagine there's a pizza. Sorry.
Oh, my goodness.
I should have sang it at Homer. That would have been funnier. But anyway, all right, that's the article from...
that wouldn't be Domino's. That'd be donut holes.
Ooh. All right, the next one up is from unexplained-mysteries.com. And here's something you might want to consider.
Oh, God.
And this is actually kind of scary to me, actually, because I can see this being misused. I can just...
You think?
Yeah.
What's in the box?
Okay, so from unexplained-mysteries.com, ladies and gentlemen, head transplant surgeon now thinks brain transplants are feasible.
Can I sign somebody up for that?
You gonna get a new head for them, or you want them to get a new body?
New brain.
Oh, yeah, that might work.
Wow, can we start at the top of the American Political Society and go down?
Yeah, maybe. Sergio Canavero made headline news a few years ago.
Headline news.
That was kind of clever, wasn't it? A few years ago, after planning to perform a head transplant on a disabled patient, there can be few surgical procedures as horrific and concept as removing someone's head and then attaching it to another body.
Did they pull it out the hind end?
That's where some of them go. Yet back in 2015, neurosurgeon Sergio Canavero made headline news after announcing plans to perform such a procedure on Valery Spirindinov, a Russian programmer who had been suffering from spinal muscular atrophy.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, poor girl. Or lady. I'm sorry. Don't mean to be condescending. The endeavor attracted a huge amount of controversy and condemnation from the medical community, with most doctors arguing that such a procedure would be a fate worse than death for the patient. No, it's probably a fate just like death. Is what I'm thinking, because chances are it's not going to work well. I don't think we're quite there. But while ultimately the surgery did not go ahead, Canavero never... Now, this is full of puns, isn't it? I didn't realize if you didn't laugh, I would have read right through that. Canavero never gave up on the idea, and now, writing in a new paper, he maintains that the best solution to many of life's incurable ills, such as aging, might be up to literally transplant the brain itself from one body to another. Now, here's the problem. Where do these bodies come from? I mean, are people just donating them, or how does this work? It's like, it's okay. You got a good working head. Who's going to surrender theirs?
What was the name on the jar? Abby Normal.
Such a procedure would involve removing the brain from the skull with a robotic scoop.
A scoop with retractable tines.
Can I have sprinkles? With retractable tines, and then placing it into an empty skull of a donor body.
Wow.
Why would somebody donate that? I'm just wondering how that works.
Well, so like people in vegetative states.
Oh, like brain dead?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like, most of our
That could
American
be.
politicians.
Okay, Don's on a politic rant. The recipient would need to be immune suppressed, or ideally a clone of the donor's body.
Wow.
Well, there you go. We'll just grow them.
Yeah, there you go.
If all this sounds a bit Frankenstein's monster, then that's because it is. There's currently no possible way to conduct a procedure like this, and it would be even more difficult than transplanting a head.
You're kidding.
The human head transplant was the intermediate step towards a brain transplant, Canavero wrote. Since the latter is considered impossible, I decided to focus on HT. They got an acronym. That's a head transplant.
Head transplant.
Which is far simpler. However, although I can tell you HT works, unfortunately, it does not rejuvenate aged head tissues, including the eyes. BT brain transplant is the only option.
Gotta sound fancy and stuff.
We don't believe HT is really a valid solution, so we're moving towards BT. Wonderful. That makes it so much sexier. Just give it an acronym. That's the magic right there. Oh, God. You can't write this stuff down.
Somebody did.
Somebody did. You're right. Yeah.
So didn't somebody do a head transplant on a dog?
I don't know. I think in monkeys, but I don't know about a dog. Maybe. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. Look at your image. Look at your image. It's still like that.
Yeah, it's just in my empty chair.
That's all that OBS has is your crooked shit.
That's the spirit of Dawn. Yeah.
Yep. The spirit of Dawn.
So something got put on top of the wire, my camera line.
All of a sudden?
And then well, no, it.
I mean, it was working.
It was, yeah. So anyhow, but no, it was pulled. The cable was pulled tight. So it's maybe something had fallen onto it. But I jerked it back, and then when I went to pull it, it disconnected the extension to it.
When I went to pull it, just maybe future technique will involve a little more finesse.
In February of 1954, in arguably the most bizarre experiment, this person, Vladimir Demikov, transplanted a dog's head onto another dog.
Oh.
Using vascular connections to the host dog's heart. So yeah, that was back in 1954, though. So
yeah, I imagine that didn't end real well.
No.
Yeah. Give me the socket wrench.
Oh wait, no, that's right.
I need a 3/16 now. Stat.
I lived for 6 days.
6 days. Yeah. Well, that's about 6 more than I would have anticipated. Actually, that's that's still disturbing. But anyway, let's get to the next article here on the News Festival of Fun on the Paranormal Portal, and this one is taking into consideration the Bigfoot phenomena, and we'll see what's going on here. This is from unexplained-mysteries.com. Alleged Bigfoot captured on camera in Washington State.
Oh, not okay.
Huh?
I was Yeah, that's.
When is this? When was this, I wonder? It says a large there's a photo. I mean, it's not bad. I don't know. I mean, there's so much obscured by leaves, it's hard to really see much.
Well,
except
and the light flare there too. You know?
Yeah, the lens flare. Yeah.
Lens flares, yeah.
A large bipedal creature was photographed by a fisherman near the Ho River around 18 months ago. That's not that long ago. Oh. The image, which shows what appears to be a large hominid walking through a forest, was submitted to the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization by Ron B., who claimed it had been taken by his friend during a fishing trip around 1.5 years ago. The creature had made its appearance at the time along Washington State's Ho River. While few other details of the sighting were provided, Ron maintained that he had also had several encounters with such a creature in the same area. I myself have seen it, he wrote, and have also heard it talking and howling. Had a tree knock in October this year after shooting my 10-22. I knocked back, and then I knocked back. I knocked back, yeah. Duh. I was thinking of something about his rifle. I was like, well, how do you knock a rifle? Okay. Then felt it best to leave. Probably. Talking sounds like gibberish, or better explanation of water running over a culvert. As soon as I made a noise, it stopped. I just rolled a doe in a can. What does that mean? What's a doe in a can? You know? Is that a hunting thing? Like a scent or something? I don't know. But does this photograph really show a genuine Bigfoot, or is it something else? You decide. Well, it could. I don't know. I mean, again, it's as Don said, there's a huge lens flare, so it's hard to see with any true detail, but you can make out somewhat of a hominid appearance, but I don't know. I mean, it's certainly not substantiating it all by itself, right. But maybe if there was a series of images, I don't know. But at least he got a picture of something. It could be a hoax. It could very well be a hoax, but, you decide. I don't know. It's just, there's no way you can make definitive calls on a picture like this. It's just taken completely out of context, and you have one guy's word on what happened. So, and especially with the quality of fakes that are going on.
Yeah, the quality of fakes, exactly.
Well, they're getting better and better, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So, very interesting. I don't know. You guys be the judge. Maybe it is. I guess this could have been a trail cam terror, really. Yep, could be. Anyway, you be the judge. Actually, it wasn't a trail cam, but he actually snapped the picture. So maybe it's the real deal. I don't know. Let's go to the next one here. This one's kind of funny because I saw the thread on Twitter between Cliff Barrickman and the Rocky Mountain Bigfoot Organization.
Really?
Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization, yeah. And it says alleged Cannock Chase Bigfoot photograph exposed as a hoax. And here's the image, ladies and gentlemen, and a little bit of, I mean, the story may go into it. I haven't pre-read this, but I saw this and went, ooh, we're talking about this. Because this was posted by RMSO, I think on Twitter. And actually, Cliff Barrickman said, yeah, I think I took this picture about, 5 years ago. And it's apparently a close-up, or at least a cropped close-up of his statue that he has in his museum, and it's reversed. Yeah, Cliff said, I vertically flipped it and did this, and he pointed about the curly hair on the chest, which was identical to his photo.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it says an image allegedly captured a Bigfoot-like creature in England has turned out to be a deliberate forgery. Yes, it was. Earlier this month, an individual identifying himself as Ronnie wrote to the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization to submit a photograph that he claimed to have taken in Cannock Chase. The image above, which is black and white, shows a close-up of what looks like a hair-covered musculature of a large ape-like creature. Back in August of 2015, I saw a Sasquatch Bigfoot-type creature in broad daylight in Cannock Chase, he wrote. It was roughly about 50 meters away from me. It looked to be about 7 or 8 feet tall, possibly even taller. Very, very heavily built and covered from head to toe in brown hair and fur. Over the last 7 years, I've been back to Cannock Chase many, many times, looking for evidence, hoping that I might see it again. I also started setting trail cams several years ago. I was setting trail cams most of the last year, and I stopped in the winter as I hate the cold, and I usually start again in the spring. Last summer, I was in Cannock Chase checking my trail cams. 3 showed nothing, but on one I found something very interesting and very extraordinary. I see a huge chest and a huge left arm covered in hair fur, which is actually partially obscured by by foliage. In reality, I believe the arm is much, much bigger. Not everyone was convinced by the image, especially Cliff Barrickman of Finding Bigfoot fame, who noted on Twitter that the photograph looked a lot like the replica model Bigfoot found at the North American Bigfoot Center, of which he happens to be the curator. By taking a close-up photograph of the model and changing it black and white, he was able to reproduce almost exactly the image submitted to the RMSO. This is one Bigfoot image, it seems, that has been very well and truly debunked.
Definitely.
Yeah, and there's the original, and here's Cliff's response. He says, it seems the trail camera photo is almost certainly a crop photo of the NA Bigfoot Center's Sasquatch replica Murphy. I created the photo below by taking an older pic of Murphy, mirroring it on the vertical axis, and making it black and white. Note foliage and the curly hairs on the chest.
It looks exactly
the
same.
I mean, he blurred it a little bit. Yeah, that's terrible. So there you go. Again, this is the internet, folks, and you can't believe everything everyone says, and this is one great example, and thank God Cliff saw it and went, wait a minute. I know that body. Yeah. Yep. I'm sure he looks at it every day. So good job, Cliff Barrickman. And Ronnie, you suck. Just for the record, you suck, you hoaxing piece of trash. I don't like the hoaxing thing.
Yeah,
it doesn't do anything to move the needle forward, and it actually moves it back a hell of a lot, because it just makes a mockery of all this stuff. There's too many people busting their tails, trying to do the work, trying to get the evidence. And then there's idiots like this Ronnie that are just like trying to get some recognition and trying to get their 5 minutes in the spotlight.
I wonder what the B stands for.
Huh?
Ronnie B.
Oh, Ronnie B.
I wonder what the B stands for.
Well, I'm sure should be an S after that, but at the very
you're
least.
being really nice.
Yeah. Well, this is a family show, so I can't be totally unhinged, but I can think a lot of things.
Wonder Woman says, sick 'em, Brent.
Well, it's just trash. It's this kind of stuff is just trash. And unfortunately, there's too many people like this that are just trying to get some attention. Right. And they're willing to just comb through the thousands of different images that are out there of alleged Bigfoot doing things, trying to make it unique and original, and say, oh, I was just trail cam out there. And it's like, shut up. Go, take up Scrabble or something,
No, don't take up Scrabble, because you'll lie about that too.
Yeah.
No, that's a word. No, it's not a word.
Smiggledorf's a word. I heard it when I was a kid. So anyway, folks, there you go. It's the latest scam, and was successfully debunked. So congratulations. That's awesome. At least it was uncovered right away.
And we know the guy who did it.
Yeah, Cliff. Yeah. Yep, Cliff's a good guy. He's one of those really, really like super intelligent guys. Actually, Bobo is too. You guys may not know that, but Bobo is smarter than hell. He just, he's all easygoing and mellow and stuff. But once you start talking to him, I mean, boom, he's just on it. He just really knows his stuff. We haven't had Cliff on the show, but we've had Bobo.
Yep.
Check the archives if you want to see that, or head over to the Paranormal Portal Pieces channel and see an abridged version of it.
There you go.
That's over there. So anyway, very cool. I was glad to bring that one to light, because I like to flatten those tires as quickly as I see them. Just stick a screwdriver in the side.
You little vandal.
Your hoax is going nowhere. At least for as broad as our audience is. So, this next story, I feel terrible for the guy, because this has got to be about the worst hell that any delivery driver could encounter. This has got to be the freshest hell. I don't know what this guy did karmically to deserve this, but oh my God. This is from unexplained-mysteries.com. Amazon driver falls through hole and ends up stuck in septic tank.
Oh God,
that's a septic tank.
That's a shitty deal.
You didn't just say that, did you?
What?
Your mic is on, dude. It is.
Oh, it's just my camera that's not working.
No. Thank you, Don, for the demonetization. Amazon driver falls through a hole and ends up stuck in a septic tank. That poor guy. Oh my God. That's the kind of thing you can't wash out for a week. 'Cause you're gonna remember that.
Yeah, but it's in every nook and cranny.
And probably in his, when you fall, your mouth automatically opens
nose,
like
your ears, your eyes. Yeah, like that wasn't a baby Ruth. What a potty mouth.
Oh God, you're just on a roll tonight.
Chucky Danger says that stains the soul. Oh yes, in a big way.
You're right, man. There's some things that man will never forget that moment ever. I can't imagine the fellow. You imagine the razzing he's going to get from the other drivers. What's that smell? Oh, Chuck's here.
Yeah, that's
poor
like
guy.
I don't know if I told you earlier, but I just got trash service at my house, right?
Yeah.
And they do rural trash service. So I guess the driver's name is Tippy. They call him Tippy because a couple of years ago over by my house, he dumped a garbage truck. There was snow and ice on the road. They dumped his garbage truck.
God.
So they call him Tippy.
Yeah. Well, I'm here to tell you that when you work in a workplace, man, people are brutal with the nicknames. I was in corrections, as many of you know, and every once in a while we'd have an escape.
Right.
And so I'm out on escape duty, and we worked in cooperation with the law enforcement in the area. And so I'm out there, and I got the canine guy with me.
Oh, nice.
And we're looking in this wooded area and stuff, and the dog starts signaling, and it found the guy and stuff. And so I was right there. I'm like, all right, come on over. And I took a step kind of a little bit past the dog, and that dog, he bit me right on the butt. And I was like, ah. And of course, word spread like wildfire. So for years, my nickname was Milkbone. What's going on, Milkbone? Thanks. Yeah.
Well, at least it wasn't pork chop.
Yeah. Well, that's now. That's my current nickname.
Jeez.
Yeah, they call me Milkbone because the canine bit me. It was actually the second time that same dog bit me.
You got bit by the same dog twice?
Yeah, the first time.
What'd you do to piss him off?
The first time I was petting him.
Oh.
And he was all nice, and all of a sudden he just went and got my thumb. It was like, oh, jeez. So, yeah. I guess it was the combination of both times this dog just loved me, and so they called me Milkbone. But I can't imagine what they're going to call this guy.
It's a dog-eat-dog world.
His name is Charles. It is Charles, yeah.
Chuck.
I said Chuck. His name is Charles. Charles Amikangel had been delivering parcels when the ground suddenly gave way beneath his feet. If you think you're having a bad day, spare a thought for this guy. Amikangel had been delivering a parcel to a home in Apple Valley, California, recently when the ground suddenly collapsed underneath him and he found himself falling into an underground pit. Oh, poor Chuck. Things went from bad to worse when he realized that he had landed in a septic tank.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's not something you can just climb out of either, I'm pretty sure. Pulling out his phone, he even captured footage. Ooh, selfie. Guess what they've been flushing? So I'm delivering to this customer's house and just fell into a septic tank. I think he said, I don't know if they were digging it or what, but I walked by and the ground came out underneath me.
I can tell he wasn't digging it.
I'm like 6 feet down, and I tried using these roots around me to get out, and they just pulled more dirt on top of me, and I'm standing in knee-deep sludge.
That's a nice way to say it.
Yeah, that's the only political correct way to put that.
Water.
I really do not want to die in somebody's whatever you call this thing. Fortunately, firefighters were soon on the scene, and with the help of a ladder, he was able to climb out of the hole. Incredibly, though, he still had to get back in his van and finish his deliveries. You can check out the footage via CNN report on the incident below.
The footage.
There's the footage. There's the hole. I got one word for Chuck. Use the damn sidewalk. He's cutting through the yard trying to make some time.
I got 15,000 things going through my head. I guess I can't say any of them.
Yeah, probably not. Knowing what goes on up there. So there you go. All right. So, like I said, at the very least, hopefully when you tune into the news, you'll hear something you didn't know. But you're not sure you're going to want to know some of it. So this is one of those stories like, oh, poor guy. His name was Chuck, too. That's funny. I just made up the name. I thought. But anyway, we're going to do one more, and then we'll be done with news.
Oh, goodness.
This one's kind of interesting. It's more of an archaeology and history. It might be long, but I think the headline says it all, so it won't take long. Let's just see how long this one is. No, not bad at all. Oh, this is good. It says from unexplained-mysteries.com, mystery skeletons found under car park could be medieval. Oh. Wow. This is January 15, 2023. It says archaeologists excavating a car park off the coast of Northumberland, England, have unearthed 7 skeletons. The discovery, which is made on an island of Linsfame, occurred after the site was checked for archaeological evidence during work to install new pipes. It's thought that the skeletons could be medieval, though this is yet to be satisfactorily confirmed. This is hot off the presses and just find from just before the new year under the former car park, which is now a coach park. What's the difference? I don't know. Assistant County Archaeologist Nick Best told local counselors teams uncovered a group of burials of at least 7 individuals. The assumption is that there's probably more. We haven't dated them yet, but they might be medieval. It's very likely that they're medieval, and there's a chance they could be very early medieval. They're very interesting remains. There was just enough risk that we decided to do it. We should be able to get some radiocarbon dates back from them. This isn't the only historical find beneath the car park in England. In recent years, back in 2012, an archaeological team discovered the remains of King Richard II at the former site of Greyfriars Priory.
Richard III.
Oh, is it third? Oh, yeah, there's 3 lines there. Whether anyone of significance is among the 7 skeletons found in Linsfame, however, remains to be seen. Wonder what the picture is. What is this? Linsfame Island? I don't know. It's a castle. Okay.
I hope they don't find 2 more.
Why?
Because there were 9 rings given to the king.
9 rings. Yeah. Was it 9? I thought it was 7. 7
No, it
were
was
given.
7 rings to the dwarves.
Oh, gotcha.
It was
okay.
3 to the elves because they forged the first 3.
Who did?
The elves did. Galadriel was there when
right,
forged
right.
the first
Yep,
of the
yep.
3 rings.
That's right. Yep.
And then 7 to the dwarf lords, and then 9 to the kings of men.
Gotcha. Well, there you go.
So because we don't want,
I don't think that the Lord of the Rings is a historical record.
Hey, look, people. Never mind. I can't say that.
Okay.
That might tick off some people. But.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a production of the Paranormal Portal News. Special thanks to unexplained-mysteries.com. And let's get back to the rest of this joyous fun
That's
call
the news.
the portal. This
Hit the
is
porn music.
the news.
Brown chicken brown.
All right. There you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, hit that clap button. Give Eliza the clap.
I know. I saw that. Eliza? Yeah. Thank you, Eliza. That was wonderful. Appreciate it. I love it. Mom's always on the horn. She's like, hey, this happened. Don't forget. I love it. Thank you, Mom. I saw it, though. I came out of the news just in time to catch Eliza's wonderful donation. Thank you so much. That helps out a ton.
Rachel gets it right. Says, now you're Tolkien.
Nah, I'm Tolkien. Really? Tolkien?
J-R-R.
Yeah, J-R. Yeah. I always pronounce it Tolkien. But I don't know. Maybe it is Tolkien. either way, sure. I wouldn't mind having his paychecks. What?
Farm, shut up. You're going to get me in trouble. He's going to get me in trouble.
Oh. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the rest of the show. There's the voice of Don Longbeard. As he's haunting the Portal studio, as you can see, his chair is empty. Not really. It's just unplugged. And then he replugged it in. And my production software went, I don't know what to do with this.
It went dupe.
It went derp. But there it is. The Longbeard's throne, I guess. All right. So we got a lot more to get to here on the Paranormal Portal on this Wednesday evening. Commercial-free version, of course. So we are okay. There's no need to hustle or hurry. We just can do what we want to do. But I will tell you this. It's time. Are you okay? You're dinging over there. Is there no way to
somebody's just pinging me.
Mute that?
I tried.
All right.
Let me see if the do not disturb will
Brent Thomas, you should do a show that is all paranormal news. There just isn't that much. I mean, a lot of times I end up having to go to the deep archives of unexplained mysteries to find something or other sites, and it's tough to keep bringing up enough. But yeah, we could do segments just of the news. That would be fine. Maybe a clip segment for the Pieces channel. I don't know. There are options, but thank you. I appreciate that, Steve. They're a lot of fun. I do love the news segment. It's a lot of fun. And I love this new segment that we're doing now, which is one that I've been excited about because, and special thanks again goes to Maggie, who was like, I just happened to glance at Discord and it was like, I don't know. I co-hosted with Danielle Aiello on Hidden Existence tonight. And I got done with that and then checked the Discord and I was like, oh, Maggie said, I don't know, but maybe there isn't a question tonight. But maybe he forgot. And I was like, no, I did. So thank you, Maggie, for that. And thank you to the other people who brought it up as well. I did forget, unfortunately. It's been just a hectic several days, but I was able to get one up, and many of you have commented on it. So thank you. Thank you for the fourth quarter hustle. I appreciate that. Or the 2-minute warning hustle, whatever. So we did get it up there. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the Discord question of the week segment. So here we go. Boom. All right. So this is the Discord question of the week where we entertain our Discord audience and bring them into the live show with their feedback on a paranormal question. So I field a question before every live show unless we have a guest, but on the regular nights, just throw out a paranormal question just to see what people are thinking. And it's been a lot of fun because you guys have brought great thoughts to the table. You've mentioned things that I hadn't considered, and I love that fact that we are having this dialogue of possibilities and ideas. There's no wrong ideas. Again, that's the big thing. There's no experts in any of this. Nobody knows what the hell is going on with any of this for sure. There's ideas out there. There's people that have theories, and they may be very, very popular theories, but that doesn't make them right. So if you come up with something else, by all means, put it in there. So this question, which was only asked a couple hours ago, but again, many of you responded. Don, do you want to read it?
Why, certainly.
Okay.
The disembodied voice.
The disembodied Don.
All right. So
we'll get you a body transplantator.
No, that's okay. I like my shape. It's a circle. Cattle mutilations are an unusual topic. Yeah. Cattle mutilations are an unusual topic with livestock being killed with surgical precision. Most sites have no blood and indicate no struggle, and often bodies of these mutilations will not even draw. I meant to not. Oh, okay. Will not even draw other predators who seem to avoid them. Most often these are believed to be the work of extraterrestrials, but some have indicated that they are covert government black projects. What do you think? Can I make a comment before I read these?
Sure.
If they're government co-op black projects, are they looking for the brains of the politicians?
Jesus. All right, continue.
Did they have to anal core that cow to find a brain of a politician? So anyhow, Android just popped in. Hi, Android. He goes, oh, I haven't missed the question of the week yet, or the day yet. So here we go. Andrew's the first one here. It says, I do not believe they're from government projects. That doesn't make sense to me. If the government wanted cows to dissect and study, they could just buy their own or steal them from the neighbor next door. Mm-hmm. I think it's extraterrestrials or ultra-terrestrials based off the detailed reports from the scientists of the government contract workers at Skinwalker Ranch. Reports of bright orbs appearing in fields at night, then a bipedal, tall, slim figure climbing out of it to be like it's being birthed into the universe, then gets up and runs off into the neighboring patch of forest. There are reports from the ranch about a little calf, yes, just born that was mutilated with precision just 20 minutes after the rancher was working with that calf. It did it behind his back and when he was just on the other side of the field. So that sounds like something using portals to be able to pull that off in daylight, undetected, and that quickly. So I believe that would be defined as ultra-terrestrial. However, I'm not sure would it still be classified as ultra-terrestrial if it was from another planet in our universe, but just using portals only as a method of transportation to bypass the great distance in space.
Maybe, yeah, that's a good thought.
Cashew Gesundheit says, I've heard the government theory. Imagine the sort of data that would be collecting, which if it... oh, goodness, I can't read tonight. I didn't bring my glasses either.
Do you want me to read it?
Sure, yeah, I'm having a problem reading tonight.
So Cashew Gesundheit says, I've heard the government theory. Imagine the sort of data they would be collecting and which would preclude them from offering the cattle owner compensation or maintaining their own herd. It seems so wasteful and inhumane, but we can't exclude humans from wasteful and inhumane activity to serve their own goals. Yeah, that's a good point.
ZX81 version 2. Why would government do a black ops to steal and mutilate cows? Seriously, they just open a top secret farm and breed their own. Makes no sense. Good point. Mm-hmm. Or logic, he says.
Yep.
Or they say. Maggie says, I think there's just something really funky going on, especially the carcasses that appear to have been dropped from a great height. That's right, yes. Whether they've been dropped or have just been deflated somehow by means of extraction of fluids, etc. I don't know. Why, though, and by whom? At this point, I personally have no idea and haven't looked into it much past a few pics and listening to a few accounts. Just here and there, 66. The probability that the government is working with aliens on mutilations, in my opinion, would be very high.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, we talk about, the dumb bases and the secret extraterrestrial bases underground and things like that.
Yep.
So, B. Morris says, what if it's government experiment in which they only need specific parts of the animals? Why do they take the anuses?
They look like donuts.
They're cloning politicians. Hormonal needs. Has this happened to sheep too, but not on the same scale as bovine? Perhaps it's just a tasty treats for aliens. Mm-hmm. Hey, John, did you get those O-holes for me?
The O-holes.
those tight little rubber bandy things.
There's SpaghettiOs and then there's cow-O's.
Cow-O's, cow-odios.
Beef-O's.
No. Beef-aroni.
Okay, continue.
Beef-o-roni.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman. Unknown entities are performing these acts. My dad showed me his dead cow out in our pasture. He said he couldn't understand how or why coyotes could or would take her down when calves are available. Looked for bullet holes, but none found. Wow. There you go. Well, there you go. So
sure, and the reason that I brought up the whole Black Ops government thing is because I've heard theories about that where some people speculate, well, it's the black helicopters are often seen in the area and they could be perhaps covertly doing samples for the prion disease, mad cow disease. And I don't know. I just don't buy that. I just think that if they were indeed doing those kind of samplings and stuff, why wouldn't they work in cooperation with the ranchers and just say, hey, it's part of your licensing. We got to come in there and do a couple samples.
Yeah, you got.
There's no reason to come in black helicopters and do weird tests or do that. I just don't believe that would, because imagine the legalities and the press that would leak out, and I don't know. It would just really undermine government in such a huge way for such a remedial reason. So I don't.
Did you say never mind. McReason.
Remedial reason.
Okay,
Not
McReason.
That's the new McAnus now.
No, that's
Forget the McRib.
That's the McRib. Yeah, that's exactly what that
It's the McAnus at McDonald's. There's a new sandwich coming at McDonald's, folks. It's the McAnus. I don't know. I don't buy into that. I think that it's got to be supernatural or extraterrestrial, and I think you guys are right on board with all this. Great points, ZX. Why would they? If they could just, get their own herd and then do the, experiment away however they wish. So that's a good point. And I don't buy that they would fly in on black helicopters and just do these random samplings where they could just, require it of the ranchers due to the worry of the spread of these diseases. So I don't know. Again, we don't know. It's all speculation at best, but it is an interesting topic. And I will tell you that when I was on Hidden Existence with Daniela earlier, we were talking to a gentleman, and I'm terrible with names, so you have to forgive me, but actually Maggie linked it in the chat. No, in general, I think. But it was a great discussion. He's a researcher over there, and they showed a bunch of photos of alleged sheep mutilations. What was it? McLaren, yeah.
Mick McLaren.
Mick McLaren, yeah. But he was a wonderful gentleman and had some interesting things to say. So that's kind of where my head was at. I just got done with that interview, and then I came to this, and I was like, oh, I need a question. I'm like, well, this is kind of perfect. I had some fodder from that show to work with. So thank you guys for your responses. I really appreciate it. You're absolutely on point. I think you're right. I think it's ultra-terrestrials, extraterrestrials, extra-dimensionals, whatever they are. I think that's who's doing it. I don't know why, but it is incredibly interesting and surreal. I will say one of the key things, and Maggie kind of touched on this, was the excretion of fluids. And
right.
So many of them are found with no blood spill,
right.
Nothing. They're just devoid of blood. Now, I've heard theories, and actually Kerry Arnold and I were having a talk about this once. And he's like, no, it's just pooling. It's the blood pools and then kind of solidifies. But some of these finds are absolutely fresh.
Yeah, fresh.
It shouldn't be,
warm.
And so is it possible that some are misidentified? Maybe. But I didn't really buy that. I think whatever this phenomena is, it seems very real and incredibly unnerving. But what are they doing? Hell, who knows? But they're doing it. I think they're doing it. So thank you to everybody for your contributions on this. I think that, we're probably nowhere near getting any answers on it, but it is still an incredible curiosity. So, watch for the questions of the week. Don, do you have a link to put in there?
I did, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
I just thought about that now.
Oh no, I will put it back in, but I did post the.
Okay, Don's dropping a link into the chat if you want to become a part of the Discord. We'd love to have you over there. Love your input on these questions, and there's just a ton of other things over there. Again, I keep showing you guys, but there's this whole threads of different topics dealing with the topics we cover on the show. People are posting links of things and clips, and some of it is humorous, some of it is really thought-provoking and intriguing, but this is the Dogman one, and they go way up. You can go way back and see what everybody's been posting since the inception of the group, so it's just really phenomenal. So I appreciate everybody's response. Here it is.
Oh,
Mick
no.
McLaren.
Naysay. Some cows are willing participants, or so I heard.
No, you didn't hear that.
H-E-R-D, herd.
I see what you did there. All right, you get that. You get the rim shot, and say so. Thank you, everybody, again, and let's get back to the rest of the show. Boom. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to be. So at this point in the show, what I would normally do is go into some little tidbits here and there. But I'll tell you what, on Saturday night's show, I ran into an amazing story from Sasquatch Chronicles that I just ran out of time on.
Never heard of her.
Well, you may not have heard of her, but she
seems to know you.
Well, Wes has been a wonderful friend.
Yes,
so
yeah.
I appreciate that he's made his site available to us to cover on the shows. But there's this really pretty incredible account from a listener that wrote in, and I believe it's going to be a show, as I recall, on an upcoming episode. But it's one that I started reading and I just couldn't finish because it was just so long. Was this the one? Yeah, this is the one. Okay, and you can see it is a really long account, but I really wanted to read it in full because this guy really went out, put everything. I mean, it's just really well written. It really brings you into the experience, and I felt horrible on Saturday having to cut it off because we just ran out of time. I was like, there's no way I can finish this. So I thought we would spend the second hour doing this. I don't know how long it will take, but once again, my apologies for Saturday's show that I saw that, I opened it, I read like the first paragraph, I'm like, oh, this would be good. I'll read this on the show. And then I started reading it on the show, and it was like, oh my God, there's a whole lot more here than I expected. So with your indulgence, I want to reread it tonight in its entirety for the show. So, and again, I think it's, as Wes says here, it's an upcoming show, and it's Get That Damn Light Out of My Face.
You're right, yeah, it's an upcoming show. It better be.
It is. It absolutely is. So here's the article, again, from Sasquatch Chronicles blog. Please check it out over there. I just really can't encourage you guys enough to check out SasquatchChronicles.com because it's more than just Wes's podcast show. It's so many more links and information that he posts up on the blog. It's just full of amazing stuff. So this one is from January 7th, upcoming show, Get That Damn Light Out of My Face. And I don't know if it's an actual show yet. I guess I should probably. Could you check that on Sasquatch Chronicles?
I'll see what I can do.
See
if
it is an actual show that's live now. But a listener writes, I do want to preface this by saying that I'm from a very early age, I've always had a love for the outdoors. My parents signed me up for Cub Scouts, and I became old enough, and that transitioned into Boy Scouts. But even when I wasn't scouting, I'd beg my grandpa and dad to bring me camping, hunting, and fishing. Both were very competent and capable outdoorsmen who taught me a lot about the outdoors, setting traps, making makeshift shelters, and starting fires without an available flame are all options. By the time I turned 16, which is when this story takes place, I was camping alone on weekends, and my family owns about 2,000 acres of land in Louisiana. That's a lot of land. And a creek runs through the northernmost tip of the property. There are no access roads and to this creek big enough for a car to get to, and portions of it are so grown up that riding any kind of ATV through it is possible, but it's going to be a slow pace. When I'd go solo camping, this is the area I'd be going to. It was secluded and essentially untouched by other humans, but it offered the calmness of the outdoors that I love. One of my favorite spots to camp at the time was this area. The creek horseshoed around this peninsula-like section of the woods, giving me 3 sides to fish on and any predators with only one real way into my camp. A lot of the times when I would go solo camping for a night or two, I'd leave all my unnecessary items behind and opt for a more basic experience. Like, I'd leave my tent, sleeping bag, jugs of water, and stuff like that behind and bring a hammock, chlorine dioxide tablets, a collapsible fishing pole, fishing line, and tackle, and a ferro rod only. I say all of this now because it'll really help better understand the situation later. Okay, on to the encounter. In the summer of 2009, I had this bright idea that I wanted really to test my skills by camping alone with the most basic of supplies for a full month. My only obstacle to this idea was my parents. I asked my mom if I could, and she, of course, said, just ask your dad. So I went to Dad and explained my idea, and after some lengthy compromising, he agreed under the conditions that I brought at least 4 days' worth of emergency food, a weather band radio, a flare gun with at least 2 flares. I had to tell him where I would be camping, and he got to come check on me every 3 to 4 days, so he could tell my mom I was still alive. I felt that was fair and began packing my bags for the hike to my favorite camping spot. I packed the basics I felt I would need, like my hammock, ferro rod, kindling, trail snacks, water tablets, solo stove, a waterproof tarp, mosquito netting, paracord, and of course, the stuff my dad wouldn't let me leave without. I had plans of leaving at first light the next morning for this long walk, but that night I was too excited and restless to sleep, and I think I got maybe 2 hours of sleep the whole night. The rest of the time was spent watching out my bedroom window for the sun to come up, and as soon as I could see the ground outside my window, I was up, dressed, and out the door. It was at least a 4-hour hike from my house to the designated camping spot, if I went at a snail's pace, but I wanted to enjoy the hike in, so I set a pace that would have me at my campsite by early afternoon. About an hour into the hike, I had to pee really badly, so I walked off the trail about 10 feet to relieve myself, and as I walked back to the trail, I saw a large stick lying in the ground and thought it would make a decent walking stick, so I bent down to pick it up. As I grabbed it, I heard a loud but quick snapping sound, then the rustle of leaves, like something big was running away from me in the woods. I looked in the general direction of the noise but saw nothing, so I assume it had to be a deer or a hog that got startled by me and took off. I blew it off and began hiking toward my campsite. About an hour before I reach my camp, I start to feel slightly hungry and decide it would be okay to take a small break. Chew on a granola bar and have some water, so I find a nice shady spot under a beech tree and begin to eat my snack. And as I looked around in the woods to see if I could find any birds or squirrels playing in the trees, but to my surprise, the woods were completely silent. There were no birds chirping, squirrels darting through the trees, or anything other than a light breeze here and there, barely enough to move the leaves on the trees. I found it odd, but not strange. I just stopped, so I figured anything in the area was probably waiting to see what I would be doing before it made any noise. I finished my snack and sat for about another 5 minutes when this very strong pungent smell hit me. My first thought was, there's a skunk nearby. Because at the time, that was the only animal I could think of in this area that could produce such a horrid smell. I attempted to sit longer, but the smell became so overwhelming that I went ahead and started to finish off my hike. As I get within what I feel was 100 yards of my camping spot, I begin scanning around me for potential small game trails, so I kind of have an idea where I might want to set some small traps. As I'm looking, I notice a large cypress tree that has a large portion of its bark rubbed off. I played it off as a buck rubbing its horns on the tree, not really paying attention to the fact that the rub mark is over my head by at least 6 inches. I get to my camping spot around 1 to 2 p.m. and begin setting up. I hang the hammock and mosquito netting, clear out a large enough ring for a fire area, and then begin scrounging around for suitable firewood for the night. I always like having all that stuff settled before I do anything else because I'll lose track of time and wander around in the dark trying to find firewood if I don't. Once the camp is set up and ready to go, I grab my fishing gear and head down to the creek to get a few hours of fishing in. I fish for several hours and catch enough for dinner that night. So as the sun is beginning to creep in behind the trees and the woods are starting to darken, I decide it would be a good time to head back to camp and get a fire going. Well, I get the fire going and cut a couple of sticks to hang the fish on to cook. As the fish is cooking, I'm facing towards the elbow of the horseshoe of the creek makes around my campsite. Directly across the creek from me, I hear a branch break and a large splash in the water. I think, a tree branch just fell into the water. But as I'm thinking this, a low but very audible whoo-wee comes from the same direction. The sound wasn't anything I've heard before, but being excited about the camping trip I was getting to take and really just being lost in that happiness, I played it off as being a bullfrog and went on about my business. But it wasn't until maybe 30 to 45 seconds after the sound that I heard what sounded like someone tapping a wooden yardstick against a tree. It was like a soft knock, followed by a second and another soft knock. And I was like, yeah, okay, it's just the wind causing the trees to sway. They're just popping it from the movement. I was able to put it all in the back of my mind and pass it off as nonsense, stuff long enough to eat and get settled by the fire. This year, the year before this, Les Stroud's book, Survive, had come out, and I will admit I was slightly addicted to the book. I read it cover to cover at least 4 times between first getting it as a Christmas gift and this camping trip. And since I was so intrigued by the book, I brought it and a notepad with me so I could read it and jot down notes at night while I was winding down. I'm about 10 to 15 minutes into reading this book when this ear-piercing scream echoes from way off in the distance. It sounded like it was at least 3 to 4 miles away. It sounded like a woman being murdered in the woods. It startled me a good bit as I was pretty focused on the book and note-taking, but I remembered that Grandpa and Dad always talked about there being panthers that would wander through this area every now and then. But they would stay away from a campsite as long as there was some source of light, like a fire. So I just grabbed a few more pieces of wood and threw them on the fire and went back to reading the book. About 5 minutes later, the scream happened again, but this time it sounded way closer. Like at least 2 miles, if not closer. And I remember sitting and thinking, okay, the panthers are coming this way, but it sounds like they're making ground pretty quickly. Maybe it was closer before, but the echo through the trees made it sound further away than it was. Either way, it probably won't bother me once it sees the fire. After the second scream, the rest of the night was pretty calm. I turned in early after the long hike in. I was pretty tired. I left the fire burning just in case the panther managed to wander close enough that it wouldn't walk directly into my camp. I wake about 15 minutes before the sun comes up, put a few more pieces of wood on the fire, and grab some beef jerky I'd brought in for breakfast. As I'm sitting by the fire, slowly waking up, I begin to notice what sounds like heavy breathing, like someone is breathing super forcefully out of their nose. I know deer will do this when they sense danger from a distance, and I assume it's figuring out that I'm danger and is blowing at me, and I just kind of blow it off. By the time I finish my breakfast, the sun is up enough that I can see well enough to make it back down to the creek and splash some water on my face just to kind of help me wake up some more. I know I'm low on firewood and figure it would be a good idea to spend an hour or so collecting a decent stockpile before setting off to do that. But as I'm doing it, I start smelling the same pungent odor I smelled the day before on my hike in, and I mumbled jokingly, "The skunks are following me." Well, I continue to collect firewood, but slowly the feeling of being watched comes over me. Not like all of a sudden, I felt like I was being watched. Like at first I thought I felt like something was watching me. Then I kind of felt like I was being watched by something that was definitely watching me. And I began to scan around me to see if I could see someone or something watching me. But I couldn't see anything but trees. I go back to collecting firewood and try to put it in the back of my mind. But the longer the feeling is there, the more it's replaced by this overwhelming sense of fear and dread. Like I shouldn't be there right now. And I should probably leave, but in my head, I'm talking myself down as if I'm overthinking the situation, saying that there's nothing out here I haven't already seen before. And I'll be all right if I just finish collecting firewood and you can walk the bank of the creek for a ways and clear your mind. Once I was convinced I had enough firewood to sustain me for a day or two, I walked northward along the bank of the creek, just taking in the woods around me. I get to about a mile from camp and begin hearing a grunting sound coming from ahead of me. Thinking it's a wild boar and not really wanting to have to face a pissed off pig with razor sharp teeth, I turn around and head back in the direction of the camp, but in a more western direction. So as I'm walking, I'm kind of paralleling the camp at an angle and will eventually cross the path I took walking into the camp area. As I'm getting closer to camp, I'm scanning the ground again for more small game signs because I still have it in my mind to set up a couple of traps. And I do see several rabbit and raccoon tracks, but I also begin seeing what I can only describe as ball prints. It looked as if someone was taking something about the size of a billiard ball and slightly indenting the ground with it every 7 to 8 feet in a straight line. I looked at the track and followed it in the direction I thought it came from and in the direction I thought it was going. And I soon realized it was either going towards or coming from the area where my camp was set up. So I began following the track toward my camp to see how close or whatever it was had gotten. And when I reached the point where the tracks kind of stopped, I was more than a little surprised to find that they stopped about 50 yards from where my campfire was. Because I could clearly see the campfire, I became more concerned about the feeling of being watched. There was nothing major blocking my view of the fire. The hammock was a little harder to see, but you could see it if you craned your neck just slightly to the left. After the discovery of the tracks and how they stopped within enough distance from camp that I could have easily been seen by whoever or whatever it was, I became a little on edge. After all my years out here with my grandpa and dad, this wasn't something I had seen, and I didn't know how concerned I should be about finding these tracks. I spent the rest of my day near camp, not really venturing out, except to do a little fishing and try to clear my head and collect water to purify for drinking. I didn't hear anything throughout the day, but would still get whiffs of the pungent odor, and every so often I would get nervous like I was being watched. I tried pretty hard to keep it all in the back of my head and rationalize it as me overreacting to being alone in the woods, but it still had me a bit nervous. The day passed and the sun began to go down again, so I began working on cooking some more fish for dinner. I set the fish on the sticks over the fire, and as the smell of the cooking fish began to fill the area around the fire, the feeling of being watched hit me like a truck running over me, and the loud breathing from that morning started up again. I'm listening, trying to act like I don't notice it, but as I'm listening, I quickly realized the sound is coming from the same direction the ball prints had stopped at. I'm very concerned at this point because whatever it is obviously big, but it's also very good at remaining quiet when it moves. And now I have food cooking, and I'm assuming it smells it and might be just as hungry as I am. I remember when Dad made me pack the flare gun in case I ran into an emergency and needed him or my grandpa to come and get me. So I grabbed my bag, pulled the flare gun out, load a flare into it with the intention that if this thing comes close enough to see it, and I deem it a threat, I'll use the first flare to shoot at the thing and try to scare it off, and then try to reload fast enough to shoot the second into the air and hope my dad or grandpa or one of my uncles that lives close by sees it and comes to investigate. I grabbed my fish off the sticks and began to slowly eat, trying to seem as unthreatening as possible. As I'm eating, there's a splash in the creek, and I hear the ooh-wee. But this time, it's not soft or low. It's very loud and very vocal. Almost immediately followed by the loud scream I had heard the night before behind me about 200 yards away. And then what I can only describe as a freight train plowing through the woods behind me. I jump and turn a full 360 trying to see what the hell is running through the woods behind me, realizing it's running away, not toward me, but in such a way it's heading toward the creek, so almost in the opposite direction as my camp. After what felt like an eternity listening to this train destroy the forest around me, I heard an like grunt and then a splash and a rush of water. like a sumo wrestler just performed a cannonball into the creek and immediately began trying to run through the water before the loud crashing started up again on the opposite side of the creek. At this point, I don't feel like I'm being watched. I know I'm being watched. And I'm trying to process all of what just happened and figure out my next move, including whether I should fire a flare or get someone out here to help me. But something in my brain told me, whatever it is, they're obviously not trying to harm you and are at least scared enough of you to run away. You should be all right. And I believed it. I spent several hours just listening for more sounds, hoping whatever it was didn't come back or trying to figure out in my head what it was. At some point, I don't know why or how I came to this conclusion, but I rationalized it as just being deer. The one was blowing at me because it stumbled upon the camp, and the woo sound was one that just had a really funny bleat. The one blowing ran in fear after the panther screamed, and it ran across the way it did because it was stuck between me and the panther, and that's why it went across the creek to the other side. I'm trying very hard to convince myself that it's nothing, and at some point the convincing worked enough that I felt I could probably get a few hours of sleep in as long as I made sure the fire was big enough that it would burn most of the night and deter anything from coming into the camp. Oy, my eye's burning. Sorry. I end up falling into a very light sleep and waking to just about any little sound. If wood popped on the fire, I'd snap awake and look around, expecting to see something in the camp. I finally fall asleep and wake up shortly after the sun rises. I'm exhausted and have made up my mind that if today and tonight go like yesterday and last night, I'll cut the trip short and hike back home the following day. I get up and add wood to the fire and begin my morning routine of beef jerky and a water splash to get my day going. And as I'm walking back to the camp from the water splash, I hear what sounds like something walking through the woods towards me.
Whoops.
Yeah. It's not as big as whatever that thing was the night before, but it's making a considerable amount of noise. I kind of freeze as the fear from the night before begins to come over me. A few moments pass when I notice two sets of legs walking through the bushes and realize it's my dad and uncle. I raise my hand in greeting as my uncle's face finally becomes visible and asks if they want some beef jerky or water. My dad asked for coffee, knowing I didn't bring any with me. I walk back to the fire and sit down, waiting for my dad's usual, "Well, you're not dead, so I guess I can go home," comments, but this time he surprised me with, "Your grandfather called this morning worried about you. He said he had a dream you were in trouble and wanted me to come and check on you." I sat for a moment, a little confused before saying, "I'm fine," and popping another piece of beef jerky into my mouth. My uncle looks at me and says, "You look like garbage. Did you stay up all night?" I just kind of shrugged and said, "I had a hard time falling asleep last night, but I'm all right." He switched his gaze from me to my dad as if to say, "Something's up." But looking at my dad's facial expression, I could tell Dad already knew I was hiding something, so he asked, "Did you see those weird footprints on the trail?" In my head I'm going, "By the trail? They were 20 yards off trail yesterday, not on the trail," but I said, "No, I haven't been over there this morning. I just woke up." As they looked at each other and then back at me, I think my father and uncle could tell I was struggling to hide my concern about the strange prints on the trail, and my dad asked, "Have you seen any weird prints at all?" At this point, I know he's on to me, so I honestly answer, "Yeah, I found some that looked like someone was walking on tennis balls yesterday." My uncle said, "Tennis balls? The ones we saw that looked like someone was walking on the side of the foot?" I answered, "No, what I saw looked like balls." Dad then asked me to show them where the prints were that I found. And as we were walking towards the prints, my uncle said, "How the hell didn't you notice these prints or what made them? Do they go directly past your camp?" Pointing out that the tracks went past the edge of the camp towards the creek before disappearing in the bank of the creek. I became a little more shaken up, but I tried harder to hide it because I know if my dad sees me too scared, he'll make me cut my camping trip short. I said, "Let me show you the balls." And continued walking to where the ball prints had stopped. Dad bent down to look at them, obviously just as confused as me, but said, "Whoever it is, they're walking on their heels. Are you sure you haven't seen or heard anyone around your camp?" I answered with a, "No, sir. Being this close, I would have heard them coming close to camp." Dad looked at me and like he didn't believe me for a few moments before saying, "I think you should come back to the house until we figure out who's out here messing around." I guess my uncle noticed the frustration come over my face, and said, "I'll stay with him tonight. If nothing happens, I'll come by and tell you in the morning. But if anything happens, I'll bring him home with me." Well, my dad seemed okay with this idea, but was still a little concerned about the situation, and the prince agreed. My uncle said he was going to walk back with my dad to get a pistol and his sleeping gear for the night, and that he would ride his ATV in as far as he could and walk the rest of the way so that he would be back in a few hours. While he was gone, I said I'll go get some firewood, even though I really didn't need it, and set up some snares and deadfalls for some small game. After my dad and uncle left, I did collect more firewood and go and find some spots to set up some traps, but I was done before my uncle got back, so I decided to set up some fishing, yo-yos, and a few drop poles while I waited. As I'm setting up the yo-yos on the right, north side of my camp, I hear a massive splash on the far side of the creek around the other side of the horseshoe and immediately jump up. I'm looking over the bank and down the creek to see if I can see anything that might have made the sound. Looking down the creek, I noticed the waves, whatever they were, coming around the creek's elbow curve. I say waves because they were much larger than a ripple. I slowly started walking towards the area where I think the sound is coming from, hoping it's just a tree that fell into the water and not some crazy person that's having their fun at my expense. But when I get to where the splash would have been, there's nothing. No visible prints on either side of the bank, no tree, no more ripples or waves. It's all calm. Baffled and kind of scared, I turn around and walk back toward camp, where I hear rustling coming from the trail. I think, oh great, it's got me in its view, and I have no real chance of escaping now that I'm cornered. But to my relief, the sound was just my uncle making it back with all of his gear. I help him set up, and he comes down to the creek and helps me set up a few more yo-yos and the drop poles. And as we're setting up one of the poles, I hear my uncle sniffing really rapidly, like he's trying to smell something. I look up at him and see he's grimacing, like what he smelled didn't appeal to him. He says, "That damn skunk must be around." I gave it a little sniff and recognized the smell from the previous 2 days and said, "Yeah, it's been around here for the past 2 days." We leave it at that and finish setting up the drop poles. With the last remaining daylight, my uncle says he's going to fish. And I tell him, okay, I'm going to go check my traps and that I'll be back around 30 minutes or so. And he says okay and walks down to the bank with his fishing gear in hand, and I start walking toward my first trap. As I'm making my way around the empty traps, I start feeling like I'm being watched again, but I put it in the back of my mind and check the last few traps, only to find them empty. And I thought to myself, it's kind of foolish to be trying to trap something that might be full of parasites this time of year. So as I'm walking back to camp, I set off the deadfalls and pick up some snares because I don't want to kill something that I might not be able to eat. When I get back to camp, I see my uncle still fishing, and I decided to join them and what remaining sunlight I have. We catch enough to feed us both and make our way back to the fire. My uncle finally broke the idle chit-chat after we ate and sat around for a minute talking about school this past year and what I had planned to do after graduating high school with, "Okay, tell me what happened." Confused, I asked, "What do you mean? What happened?" He looks at me directly in the eyes and says, "Barrett, I've been around you since the day you were born. I know you almost as well as your parents. Now, tell me what happened. What caused those tracks?" I looked down at the fire in silence, not sure how to answer him, and he asked again, "Barrett, what made those tracks?" I looked at him and said, "I don't know, Uncle Toby. I heard something blowing last night, then a scream, and whatever it was blowing took off running into the creek. I thought it was a deer that had been scared off by a panther, and now he looked confused and said, blowing. And the scream, I said, yes, sir, it sounded like a deer does when it senses danger and blows. The scream sounded like a woman being murdered. I've heard the scream 2 nights in a row and blowing twice yesterday. I could tell he was thinking over my sound descriptions and the correlations that I had to the sounds. He kind of looked off and said, yeah, it could have been a deer and a panther, as if he was not 100% convinced, but wasn't sure himself what else it could have been. After that, I said I was tired and laid in my hammock. My uncle stayed up and listened for what I figured were the noises that I had heard. I eventually fell asleep and was surprised to realize I had slept all night without an issue. I wondered when I woke up if what had been around the camps the first 2 nights was gone, or if it had seen that I wasn't alone and decided to move on. My uncle stayed most of the day with me, and I guess to see if anything would happen. And around 2 p.m., when nothing had happened, he told me he was going to head back and let my dad know nothing was wrong. He asked if I wanted to go with him, but after the uneventful night I had with him there, I was more confident that whatever was around the first 2 nights had moved on and felt more at ease with continuing my camping trip. I helped him get his stuff packed up and asked him if I could keep the cast iron skillet he had brought to fry fish with. Then watched him leave before making my way down to the creek to check my drop poles and yo-yos. I found 2 poles with a nice-sized catfish on each and got excited at the luck of getting to keep the skillet and having fish to fry in it. I skinned the catfish away from camp to avoid attracting unwanted guests in the middle of the night and begin frying them. And as the fish are frying, I grab my bottle of water tablets and, out of habit, give it a light shake, causing them to give off a small maraca type of sound. Almost immediately, it sounded like something shake a tree limb and tries to mimic the sound I just made with the bottle. I begin to freak out in my head like, oh my God, whoever was here the nights before is back now. They waited for Uncle Toby to leave and now they're back. I remembered my uncle had left me his mag light, so I grabbed it and began shining it towards the noise, but the light landed on a possum that had climbed onto a tree and was shaking the branches as it crawled across it, much to my embarrassment. I let out a short sigh of relief because as soon as my body relaxed, the ear-splitting scream from the previous 2 nights came from across the creek, and this time it sounded extremely close. So I spun quickly on my heels, shining the light in the direction of the sound. As the light pans across the opposing wood line, I think I spot eyeshine for a second and quickly pan back, but I can't find the source again. It was there, whatever it was, and then it either closed its eyes or went behind a tree. I quickly reach into my bag and grab the flare gun. I'm fully prepared to just shoot in the air and hope someone can get to me in time. But as I'm pulling it out of the bag, I hear whatever was across the creek begin running away from me. I'm still very freaked out, but at the same time, I'm not sure what it is. For all I know, it could have just spooked off a panther and everything is all right now. As a result, I hesitate to fire the flare. I don't want to use it for no reason at all. Sorry, a lot of reading. I'm back. I finally calmed myself down enough to eat, but as the flare gun in my lap just in case. I needed to shoot it quickly and wasn't fumbling around to try to get it. Man. Dry air. As I'm eating, Jesus, my voice is shot.
Talk, Don. Talk. Yeah, I saw MCAT in here earlier. So there you go. Oh, you know what? Hey, you know what? Take a quick breath. I'm going to read shout-outs. I'm going to do shout-outs. And nobody is chatting, so nobody gets a shout-out. Aggravated Progressive, Chucky Danger, Eliza, Candy Wolf, Maggie M10, Rachel Gets It Right, and Wonder Woman. Of course, Mom was here earlier. So was Farm. Let's see here. Tracy Gale just popped in. Chucky Danger, Blue Cruise, Android, And the next one that pops in is going to be the last one. And nobody. Oh. Who popped in? Digger Dog. There you go. All right. So that's who's participating tonight. While we give Mr. Brent just a quick breather.
A quick breather. Sorry about that. So as I'm eating, back to the story, as I'm eating, I'm having a back and forth debate in my head about how I was so excited for this camping trip. And somehow, after years of doing this alone, I've scared myself so bad that I can't even enjoy the camping trip. I keep telling myself that everything will be fine, and then I'm just overreacting to normal, natural things that I know exist and will not harm me. And I sit for the entirety of my dinner having this back and forth argument in my head. And when I'm done eating, my rational side says, see, you just ate a whole meal, and whatever that was didn't come back. But the fight or flight side of me is going, how do you know it didn't come back? And I know for a fact that if I fire this flare off, it's going to take anyone who notices at least 30 to 45 minutes to get to me by ATV or on foot. So even if I were to need help, it might be too late to get to me regardless. I convinced myself to just stick it out one more night, pack up tomorrow morning, hike back home, and hope nothing happens between now and then. I didn't really sleep that night. I'm too scared to sleep because I keep hearing strange noises in the dark. And the last thing I want to do is go to sleep and give whatever or whoever it is a chance to surprise me. So I pick up a book and start reading. I have the flare gun and my uncle's light in my lap, and I'm trying to detach myself from the situation without actually detaching myself from it. And then several hours go by with me reading this book. I'd reread pages 9 to 10 times, just trying to drag the time by, waiting for something to go wrong. I eventually hear a stick break across the creek from me. When a normal stick is broken or stepped on rather than a full-grown tree, I get the impression that I'm being watched. I have a very strong feeling that I'm being watched, and I decide if I'm going to be scared of something, I want to know what or who is scaring me. I plan to slowly reach for the light and the flare gun, and once I know I have the firm enough grip on both, I'm going to quickly turn the light on and shine it on whoever it is, whatever it is. To this day, I wish I had never done that and just left it be. As soon as that light came on and I fixed it on that area I thought the noise was coming from, I felt like someone had hit me in the chest with a sledgehammer.
Wow.
I couldn't catch my breath. I couldn't think straight. And I was trying to process what was in front of me. This thing was huge. It had to have been every bit of 10 feet tall. And at some point between me hearing the stick break and me shining the light on it, it had crept down to the bank of the creek and was standing in the water, staring directly at me. It didn't kick a rock in the water. It didn't splash a foot into the water. It made no sound other than that stick breaking. And as soon as that light hit it, it looked super agitated. Get that damn light out of my face. But I couldn't. I was frozen there, staring at something that I didn't think could really exist in this world. It wasn't supposed to be real. It was supposed to be a crazy story conspiracy theorists made up to scare people. But it was very real, and it was right there in front of me. And I had obviously just pissed this thing off by exposing where it was. I sat there for what felt like hours, but it had only been a handful of seconds when it let off this low, guttural kind of huffing growl. The sound scared me, but kind of snapped me back to my state of shock. And I don't know if it was just a reflex on my body taking control and saying we've got to do something. But as soon as it let out this little growl, I felt my fingers squeeze on the trigger of the flare gun, and I heard the loud pop and whiz of the flare being shot into the air. As soon as that flare left the gun, this thing's eyes went from pissed off at me to concerned as he watched it go into the air. As soon as he saw it going up, he turned and ran back up the bank. He didn't look back at me. He just pivoted a little, took 2 steps up a 10-foot bank, and disappeared into the trees. As he's running up the bank, I heard something running behind me. I turned to see what's behind me, but all I see are tree branches swaying as whatever was behind me ran away from me. The whole ordeal felt like it took all night to occur, but in reality, it probably lasted maybe 45 seconds to a minute and a half between the stick breaking and the flare gun being fired. I knew someone was bound to see that flare, and it was still pretty early in the evening, so I quickly reloaded the flare gun just in case and had to make some sort of last stand because I felt that these things were flanking me and getting ready to make their move. When I caught the one coming into the water, I didn't believe for 1 second that they would be completely deterred by the flare going off. As I'm sitting there watching, I can hear 2 ATVs coming through the woods in the distance. I know they're close, but I also know they have to walk through the woods. One of these things just ran through there to get to me. I recognize one of the ATVs as my grandpa's, and remember that he always kept a loaded pistol in a holster he had tied to the handlebars. I remember shouting as loud as I could, "Pawpaw, bring your pistol, bring your pistol," hoping he would hear me, and I want to run to them so bad, but I know whatever I assumed was sneaking up behind me could be possibly between me and them, and all I have is a flare gun. Sure, it might scare it off again, but what if it calls my bluff and decides to finish what it set out to do? I remember being so scared that I started to cry as I waited, and after waiting for so long, I heard my uncle shouting my name through the woods as they were getting closer. As soon as I felt they were close enough, I clung to the light and flare gun and just ran as hard and as fast as I could towards my uncle's voice, leaving everything I had brought with me where it was. As soon as I reached them, I shouted, "Run," not thinking that my 70-year-old grandpa wasn't a track star. As I try to run past them, my uncle reaches out and grabs me, dragging me to a stop and shouting, "Barrett, what's wrong? What is it?" I just screamed, "Where's my dad? I want my dad," and tried to run, but my uncle's grip kept me in place. And now my grandpa is yelling, "He had to run to town for your mom. Tell us what happened, Barrett." I shout again, "Just take me to my dad. I'll tell you when I'm out of these damn woods." I was fully expecting to be scolding for swearing in front of my uncle and grandpa. I guess they realized that I was too scared to be there anymore and eventually relented and brought me home. The whole way back, I was scared to death. Whatever was in the creek was in the wood line waiting to snatch me off my uncle's ATV. And I remember screaming at him to hurry up, and screaming back, and him screaming back that he couldn't because the trail was too curvy. We finally made it back to the house, only to discover that Dad had not returned. As soon as my uncle's ATV came to a slow enough speed, I jumped off and bolted into the house, almost giving my mom a heart attack at the sound of the door busting open and me screaming and crying. As my uncle and grandpa walked in, I slumped into a chair in the kitchen table and bawled my eyes out. Mom came running into the kitchen shouting, "What had happened?" But I couldn't answer her. I was still way too shocked and scared to fully believe what had happened. All I could do was bury my face in her stomach, hug her waist, and cry. It took several minutes for them to finally calm me down, and I don't think I fully calmed down until I could clearly hear Dad's truck pulling into the driveway. Dad walked in to see my mom, grandpa, and uncle all huddled around me asking me what happened, and immediately joined in with, "Barrett, what happened?" My uncle says, "I was sitting outside with Dad when I saw the flare going up. We got to him just as fast as we could, and he met us on the trail in a full sprint, crying and screaming to get out of there. But I'm still a little rattled and having a hard time speaking. I finally let go of Mom. She was so she could give me a glass of water to try to calm me down. After sitting for a moment, collecting myself and letting the water calm me down, I finally look at my dad, who asked, "Barrett, tell us what happened." So I tell him everything from start to finish. When I finally finish, I'm crying again because I'm still having a hard time coping with the whole situation. And I'm having an even harder time convincing myself that what I saw is actually what I saw. No one really says anything after I finish recounting the story, mostly because I was so visibly shaken that no one wanted to question me. My mom finally broke the silence with, "Okay, let's get you laid down in your bed and let you relax." I didn't really want to go lay down, but I knew Mom was only trying to help, so I went and laid down, asking her to leave my bedroom light on because there's no way I'm laying in a dark room after what just happened to me. I lay in bed for a long time listening to the muffled talk of my parents, Grandpa, and Uncle discussing what I told them. I heard my dad say he would go the next day and get my stuff and see if he could find anything, only to have my mom protest with, "Did you not see how scared he was? There's obviously something out there. You're not going to get his stuff alone." My grandpa and uncle volunteered to go with my dad and after my uncle got home from work. And Mom seemed a little more okay with that, but still very much against it. The next day when they got back from getting my stuff, they were a little shaken up themselves. Whatever was out there had destroyed my camp. My hammock and mosquito netting was ripped. The firewood I had collected was scattered all around the camp. My bag had been slung around, and all the stuff in it was scattered across the camp down the bank. My uncle found my book at the edge of the water, soaked, with pages torn out and scattered all over the place. This shook me even more because all I could think about at the time was, what if I hadn't fired that flare? And then I really got to thinking, what if I hadn't have heard that stick break? To this day, I won't go camping alone, even if I go in a group. I have a very hard time sleeping and will not sleep without a continuous fire burning to produce some sort of light. 13 years later, I'm scared of the dark and won't sleep in a dark room, even with my wife in the bed with me. I have a light on in the hallway outside of our room at all nights and 2 night lights plugged in the room. I still go hunting and fishing and camping, but never alone anymore. I try not to let the experience ruin my love for the outdoors, but it is definitely harder for me to enjoy it if I'm not within walking distance of a trail or road. I won't venture into deep forests anymore in a group or alone. And I've never gone back to that camping spot again. I don't know what was happening that night or what their intentions were. I can only speculate that whatever it wasn't going to end well. And I don't even want to know what would have happened if I weren't for me being alert enough to hear that stick breaking. I said I wish I would have never cut that light on to see what I saw, but I feel like that moment really prevented something serious from happening. If I would have played it off like I had stupidly done alone all those times leading up to that moment, I might not be here today. I'm only assuming their intentions weren't good. I can't say for certain they weren't just having a good time. And again, I really struggled with typing all this out and deciding whether or not I should send it. I still get a little emotional when I think about all that has happened and how stupid and naive I was to let it get as far as it did. I learned that gut instinct is there for a reason. It's not just a suggestion. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you taking the time to read my story and at least listen. I know it's long, and at some point you ask yourself, why didn't you just leave? And I can't figure that out for myself, but I do appreciate you giving us a platform to tell our story. I'm available through email if you have questions.
Wow.
Wow is right.
Wow.
It's just incredible. I mean, a 16-year-old kid going through this alone. Wow. That's intense. That's just an incredible story. An incredible encounter and a horrifying encounter. And again, that's all Sasquatch Chronicles right on the blog there. So it actually took 50 minutes to read.
Yeah, it took a while. It is episode 917.
Episode 917. Wow.
Yes, it's the content is for members only.
Oh, okay.
So it has to be a good one.
Yeah, I mean, all of us' shows are good, but this is one hell of a story. I mean, it's just incredible, and I'm sure there's more details, so much more in that interview with Wes. So I don't know.
That was in Louisiana.
Was it?
Yeah, 2,000 acres in Louisiana.
Yeah, Louisiana. So that was Louisiana. Yep. I didn't remember that part, but you're right. Yeah, that's in Louisiana, Wonder Woman. So wherever it is, there are certain experiences that you can tell just how they word it, that 100% genuine.
Right.
This is one of them. Yeah, because I mean, this person, And I haven't heard him interviewed. I'm going to go listen to the actual interview with him because, again, writing is powerful, but hearing a person explain their experiences and having a chance to listen to Wes talk to him about this, I just, this is, at 16 years old, this guy was cut from a different kind of steel.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, to be out there anyway takes courage because, but he was very comfortable camping. He had done it so many times, but this time he was going for a long haul. And it's just amazing that they knew he was there right away. Like, I don't know if they were not in this area before. Maybe he had just missed them, and just because I think it's my personal belief that these things have like an area, and it might be several, 100 miles in diameter, but they have a cycle or a circuit that I think they cover throughout their seasons. And he maybe just missed them all the other times, and this time he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Right.
So just incredible story. And I'm really glad that I reread it again for you guys because, my God, what a story. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Steve. Thank you. There was no embellishments, in my humble opinion. Yeah, it didn't. It sounded like this guy was just saying, this is what I saw. I mean, it was just a very straightforward account. Again, you be the judge. I think it's an amazing story. It's my heart breaks for this guy that was his experience. At 16, it changed the rest of his life. And that's the big takeaway of these kind of encounters, is that this was something that wasn't supposed to be real. And then he shined his flashlight, and it was 9-10 feet tall, standing there, didn't make a sound, going down a 10-foot bank or entering the water. The only sound was that snapping stick. And it's like almost divine intervention, because we don't know what they were doing.
Right.
Were they just curious and just getting a little braver and moving in to get a closer look at this? But the fact that thank you, Maggie. RB Morris says, I can't sleep now. The fact that they went into the camp and trashed it after they left, to me, is a really bad sign. It's not like they were just curious, what's in here? They trashed it. They trashed his stuff. Like, get the hell out. It wasn't like, I'm just curious what this person has. Let me dig through the pack and maybe dump it out and empty it out and look. They trashed his hammock. They, broke stuff. They threw his book and shredded it. And I mean, it was just destructive. So it doesn't sound like they were at all happy he was there. And not only that, but it's like they were sending a message. So that's incredible. Wow. Very freaky story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm sorry for the coughing fit. It was a long, long read. And that's the kind of thing I would read for a podcast. Yeah. And, when I do the narrating podcast where I cover stories, but I would usually be taking breaks as I'm doing podcasts, and taking drinks and coughing and, walking around. But that was a straight read. So I apologize for the cough, but we made it, and it was worth it, I think. Don't you think, Don?
Yeah, definitely. That's crazy. Yeah. So he said 13 years later, so that makes him 29 at the time of this reading. So
yeah, he's not like he's an old man now.
Yeah, no.
But what an incredibly powerful experience. Thank Eliza. Geez, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Brent and Don, excellent show, great story and news. Glad you enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you, Eliza. That's wonderful. You are welcome as well. All you guys are welcome, of course. You did it great, Brent. Thanks. Yeah, my eyes were watering and stuff, but yeah, I know.
There you go. Yeah, crazy.
What time is it?
It's 10 till. It's 5 till.
5 till?
5
Wow.
till 9, yeah.
What the heck happened to the time, Don?
Time to wrap it up.
So it was one great big journey to the Cryptid Corner in the second hour, but I really loved that story. That was amazing. Special thanks again to Wes for letting us share it here on the show. If you're a member, go over there and listen to it. If you're not a member, maybe consider becoming a member of Sasquatch Chronicles, because there's a lot of these episodes sitting in there that, the members can enjoy. But, it's, it's just, to me, it's amazing. Amazing story. So I don't know, Don. I don't know, Ghost Don.
The spirit of Don.
The spirit of Don in the crooked thing. Yeah, I know. I saw. Thank you, Mom. Mom's letting me know. She's always helping me keep my heads up for the donations. I really appreciate the super chats, and thank you to our members. Both, all of you guys are wonderful. And for those of you that are neither, if you want to help support the show, you certainly can do any of those, or you can just give a like. Give us a like. If you're watching the show when it's not live, leave a comment. That helps us a bunch. It's all about the algorithm. And if you have any questions or comments, by all means, I answer those messages daily myself. So if you leave a comment on the YouTube show, it's you and me talking. So
yeah, Jaron, it's been 2 hours, partner. That's our show's 2 hours on Wednesday.
Yep.
You literally came in the last 5 minutes, and you missed a hell of a show.
You missed a great story. It was just incredible from Sasquatch Chronicles blog. So that's going to wrap it up for us tonight. Don, anything in closing?
No, just don't forget, you can go get your Paranormal Portal gear at the Teespring store. So there you go.
Hey, I meant to point something out to you.
Oh,
I don't know if you want me to do it live on the air or afterwards, but
well, let's go ahead and get off the
okay.
line and
all right, I'll show you after
okay.
we log off. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Remember, we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. We'll see you next time. Next show is Friday night, so I hope you'll be here, and then Saturday night again. So I'll be here, and I'll try to remember to get up the question of the week more than 2 hours before the show.
There you go.
All right, guys, that's it for us. Thank you, and have a safe and wonderful week. We'll see you on Friday night for the 2-hour weekend celebration, and hopefully you join us then.
There you go.
So good night, everybody.
Good night.